Hi, I'm Pamela, and welcome to Greenstick Cottage, where I read and listen to books whenever the cats allow me to. They are somewhat behaved right now. So I'm going to launch right in with books that I have finished. And one of those is Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. And that is number 6 in the Red Rising series, written by him, and I loved Red Rising and the first books, the early books, and but this one is, it's so frustrating because the story itself is the main basic structure of the story, and the characters are very good, but for some reason when series reach a certain point, a certain number in the series, they start degenerating, and that's what happened here. There was horrible graphic language, not just profanity. If there's a word here and there that, an exclamation type word here and there, I can handle that. But when it gets into more longer descriptions of activities using private parts, I guess you could call it, I'm not on board for that. So this is a sci-fi series. I loved the first book, and I can't remember where it started going downhill. But with this one, number 6, that's the end for me. I went through to the end just to satisfy myself that I couldn't go any further, and that's what happened. And it's really sad, because I was invested in these characters, and they just threw in so many. He threw in. I don't know if it's the author, the publisher, the editors. I don't know where this trend is coming from, where book series just go downhill after a certain point. I just don't know what it is, but I'm not going to read any more from Pierce Brown because of it. So sad to say goodbye to the Red Rising series and to Pierce Brown. But if you can handle all of the graphic stuff, the underlying story is good. And about the universe and systems and planets and the different people on the different planets in our solar system and in the rim, and I loved all that. So I'm sorry to see it exit my life anyway. So that was Lightbringer. And the other book I finished is this one, Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green, which is the first book in the Windy City saga. And I really, really, really liked this book. This ended up, at first as it seemed a little anachronistic, I guess you could say, a little kind of overlaying present knowledge and stuff into 1871. This takes place in Chicago. And I learned at the end of the book, the author includes some historical notes and things, and I learned that the Windy City doesn't come from wind. The name, the Windy City, the nickname, came from, more from politics than from the weather. So I found that interesting. And the story is really good. It is about 2 daughters and their father, who returned from the conflict in 1861 to 1865. And he returns home to Chicago, and he unfortunately spent some time in Andersonville. I think most of the time he was away, he was in Andersonville. Now, I have read the historical novel Andersonville, highly recommend it. It's very, very good. Hard to read because, sometimes it's hard to take in because of the horrors of war and the price prisoners of war have to pay for that. And there was some of this in this book regarding Camp Douglas in, I assume, Illinois and Chicago or nearby. And that, there were horrible things that happened to the prisoner, the Confederate prisoners there. So it went both ways, whether it was Union prisoners in Andersonville or Confederate prisoners in Camp Douglas and other prisons. So you did not want to be a POW in those days. That was just awful. So this father has returned from that. It's now 1871. I think he came back in 1865, I'm guessing. And it's just been a real trial for the daughters and dealing with their father. And basically he has PTSD, but, that was the part that seemed kind of, where the present was kind of injected into 1861 Chicago. And I'm not so sure that doctors knew a whole lot more about that. They didn't call it that, of course. And it's not called that in the book. It's called Soldier's Heart. And but I'm not sure just your average GP doctor is going to know a whole lot about that. And so, anyway, there's a lot of, a lot of drama around what happened in Chicago in 1871. And in case you don't know, I'm not, but here's the hint of that. And so I learned a lot more about that and what the people went through. And I really liked the characters, the main characters, and I want to continue this book. I read this book because Tammy at the Protagonist Pub, she started a book club this year, and this was the selection for January. So I'm hoping the sequel, which is, I'll put it up here, I can't remember the name, something about the White City. Anyway, I'll put it up here. So I hope that will be the February selection. If not, I might go ahead and read it anyway, just because I want to continue to learn more, what happens to the characters after this book. So very good romance, very clean. No, none of this degenerative stuff going on in here. It's proper 1871, except for the horrors that, happen. But anyway, very good book. Love that one. And so after I finished, what I'm currently reading or listening to, after I finished Lightbringer, I started listening to, and that was a listen, Lightbringer was. I started listening to Bust Hell Wide Open, The Life of Nathan Bedford Forrest by Samuel W. Mitchum, Jr. And I think, let's see, I finished 16 out of 21 chapters. It's excellent. I love hearing all the stories that happened, the battles that happened, the details on those things, and the encounters with people, historical figures, and especially how Forrest treated women. He was very solicitous of women. He would do pretty much anything for a damsel in distress, and he had great character, I thought. And there was a little more information about the Fort Pillow incident, and I guess he's kind of portrayed a villain in that, but there were some circumstances that aren't all that well known. And also I learned the origin of the expression Ole Miss. And it's not what you think, it's not what I thought it was. So I enjoyed learning about that. And that also made me very sad about what happened to Mrs. Forrest, Nathan Bedford Forrest, he and his wife in a joint grave, and their grave was desecrated in the last couple of years, maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 years. I don't know. It's fairly recent. And I think that is part of people taking their sensibilities of current day and trying to hold people in the past, accountable. Dead people. Dead people, and try to hold them accountable for what's dead and gone. It's in the past. It's not happening now. So I was glad to get this look, and I'm still going to keep listening till the end. And it's I like listening to or reading books about war and conflicts from all sides. And I don't think Mitchum, the author here, has a certain side or anything. He's just a historian writing the history of Nathan Bedford Forrest's life. And so I'll keep listening to that one and let you know how it works out in the end. How I feel about it when I finish it. All right, and I've got another. Okay, so here's what happened. I was reading. So I'm still talking about current reads here. I was reading Wayward by Amelia Hart. Last time I did a BookTube video. And unfortunately, I got halfway through and I had to return it to the library. And I tried to renew it. It had holds. So I put my own hold on it the next day. And, thinking I could get back to it. I, of course, made note of where I left off. And so, to my surprise, that book showed up while I was still reading Veiled in Smoke. And then shortly thereafter, the book Fourth Wing, I'll try to put a picture up here. I was number 31 in line for that, for the digital copy. After the Goodreads, I put a hold on it after I saw the Goodreads Choice Awards, and that's how I acquired this book, also because I saw that this had won 2 of those awards, one for debut novel and one for historical fiction. And so, but the winner for romantasy, or I guess means romantic fantasy, was Fourth Wing. And to my surprise, that the digital copy became available. So those people were reading pretty fast, I think, because this was around the first of the year, whenever the Goodreads Choice Awards came out. So then I had 3 books to read from the library, and I focused on Veiled in Smoke, so I could get it back to the library by its due date, which is a couple days from now, and picked up Wayward. And so I think now I'll have to finish Fourth Wing first. It's due first. So on Fourth Wing, I have finished the first 16 chapters of 39. So I have quite a ways to go. So that'll be my focused read. because I think it's due, I don't know, 9 days. I think I've got 9 days. Okay, so my talk about Fourth Wing is this. I love the whole world that the author, it's by Rebecca Yarros. I love the whole world she created. This it's a brutal world, but it is very exciting and full of adventures and situations of suspense and things like that. And it is a world where there are what we would call mythical creatures like dragons and wyverns, or I think it's wyverns. Is that how you say it? Griffins, things like that. And so the military has a training facility for the dragon riders. This particular country, Navarre, is kind of surrounded by other countries that want their resources and things like that. So they try to keep a very robust military trained. And part of that is the Dragon Quadrant, I believe it's called. And so this story is told in the first person by Violet, whose mother is a general in the military, and I think she's a dragon rider herself, and so is Violet's older sister. And so Violet, she was raised under the tutelage of her father. She's 20 years old now, so her father, I don't know how long her father has been dead, I can't remember, but he was a scribe, and so that's another nearby. It's kind of in the same complex, the training places. And so the scribe, she thought she was going to be going to the scribes quadrant, and but she learned so much under her father. She's very well versed in their history, in the country's history, and everything, and laws and all that kind of stuff. So because that's what you do when you're a scribe, you record all the history and everything. And so this serves her well. Her mother forces her essentially to go to the Dragon Quadrant, Dragon Riders Quadrant instead. And she's not happy about it. She gets a lot of help and advice from her sister before, because I think when they go in, they're there for 3 years without any contact with the outside world. It's filled with peril. Beginning right on the first day, they have to walk across this parapet. It's like a bridge. The parapets are at either end over a huge ravine, think Grand Canyon-like, I guess. And then, because in the mountains, around this area, that's where the dragons live. The dragons are sentient, and they know, they in fact choose their rider, and they decide whether they want to bond with a rider or not. So, but it's dangerous. If they don't like you, they can kill you, and if your classmates think you're a weak link, they can kill you. And so death is around every corner, and you have to watch your back at all times. It's very intense, and so these are all the things I like about Fourth Wing. However, it's like the author wrote the book and wrote this great story, this great adventure, and somebody else came along afterwards and dropped little devices or little literary bombs into the narrative, and that I was getting blindsided by, because I'm running along with the story, I'm all excited about the story, and then boom, something is like, what? How does that even fit in here, and why? And like one of them, for example, they have to do this sparring thing on the mats, and you can die in that. And so Violet, she has some kind of condition where her bones break easily and joints sprains and things, so she's in a lot of danger just in normal everyday activities. So the fact that she made it over the bridge, over the ravine and all that is kind of a miracle because of how smart she is. She strategized how to do it, and with the help of her and advice of her sister, she managed to do that and stay in the program. But then, every time they have these sparring matches, people can either die or get grievously injured or, anyway, it's just so here, this is what's happening. And she's fearing for her life. She even says that. This is written in the first person in her voice. So she's fearing for her life, and yet keeps lusting after the men, and how she's not happy that she's getting distracted by lusting after the men because they're all topless, waiting for their matches or in the match or whatever. And I'm just thinking, I'm trying to imagine being in a situation, fearing for my life, literally fearing for my life, and I'm going to be distracted by pectorals or something. I just can't. Maybe it's because I grew up in a beach town where that was a commonplace thing to see, and I wasn't fearing for my life, and I wasn't distracted by that. So I can't understand it. And then, there's a couple other things so far. Like I said, I'm, 16 chapters in to 39 chapters. And then there was another thing where some, character that's never shown up before or since, where it just drops in seeing this character and what color their hair was, and then proceeds to butcher the English language, referring to this character. And I'm like, that's too much for me. My career was as, a editor of medical legal documents. So the English language is something I had to learn very precisely because I had to correct, I had to edit documents that were very important. And so I had to get it right. And so, anyway, I cannot understand, why this is that way. Excuse me? So, anyway, so I don't, at this point in time, which is, almost halfway through the book, I don't see myself continuing the series because I don't want to be blindsided anymore. And again, I just don't understand why contemporary, current literature has to do this. Why they can't just, if you've got a good story, and in this case, it's a great story, why not leave it at that? Why mess with it and just let it play out? And so I don't know who dropped these little bombs in there. It's hard for me to imagine that the author did because they just seem so disconnected from the rest of the narrative. So it kind of makes me wonder, did the publisher do it? Did the editors do it at the behest of the publishers? I don't know. I don't know enough about the business to know. But I do know this. I'll be looking more and more for books like this and or old books from the 19th century or something, because I'm just tired. I'm just tired of having a wonderful experience ruined by these kind of interloping, I guess you would call it. So that's Fourth Wing, and I'm glad I get to read it. And I have another rant. Libby. I got it on Libby. I got the digital copy of the book on Libby. And I don't know how quickly this happened, but it irritates me every time it happens on Libby, where I go in to get the book to start reading. One good turn. 5 people are waiting. And I'm just like, yeah, so I was the 31st person waiting. I'm going to read the book, no matter how long it takes me until the due date. So everybody cool their jets. So anyway, that's my rant about Libby. Okay, so then I have Wayward. So I have the longest time to read this one, to finish reading Wayward. But I haven't dipped into it yet since I picked it up at the library when it was ready for me to pick up. So I'm excited to get back into Wayward. I'm going to try to finish Fourth Wing as quickly as I can so I can finish Wayward. And so that's by Amelia Hart, if I didn't say that. And it's got this beautiful book cover. I love it. So, and that's it, I guess I should say a little bit about it. It's a triple timeline book, and it alternates between the 3 women in each timeline and their what's going on in their lives. I think it's 1619, and this takes place in England, and all 3 timelines are in England. I think the first one is 1619, the second one is 1942, and then the third one is present day. And so, and all 3 of these women are connected, and so a lot of it is about them learning, especially the present day woman learning about the previous 2. And so I'm really liking it so far. I really have been enjoying that one. All right, that's Wayward. I am still, I'm listening to Evelina more often now. So hopefully I'll finish Evelina soon. It's been kind of hit or miss on when I listen to that, but I've been doing a lot of knitting, and so I allow myself to listen to Evelina at least once a day for the past few days. So I'm getting towards the end. I just finished chapter 76 of 86, according to the Audible chapter breaks, I guess. In the book itself, it doesn't say chapters. It just says what letter it is, because it's an epistolary novel. And this was written by Frances Burney in the latter 18th century. And, oh boy, this is why I like old books. Because even though it has some kind of difficult situations and some things I didn't expect in the 1700s, I'm still very much enjoying it, and it is, it's not offensive or anything like that. So it's a breath of fresh air after these more, current types of reads. And every once in a while, I'm still picking up the Encyclopedia of Lost and Rejected Scriptures, which is edited by Joseph B. Lumpkin. I am still in Maccabees, I believe First Maccabees. Oh my gosh, a lot of stuff going on, battles and things like that. And on my quest to read all of the Robinson curriculum books, I started from the beginning. I used this curriculum when I was homeschooling my children when they were young, and so I'm familiar with some of these, but I decided I wanted to start from the beginning, as if, kind of redoing my own early education in a better form, and, really superior compared to even when I went to school. So I started from the very beginning I have made it to the Adventures of Patty Muskrat. Unfortunately, I think you have to pay for that one, and some websites suggested a substitution of the Adventures of Jerry Muskrat by Thornton Burgess. Or I think it's The Tale of Patty Muskrat is the original in the... So I may go ahead and get that, but for now, I'm just reading a little chapter of Jerry Muskrat, and I just love the little animals. I loved all of the previous ones I've read, and those are by... Oh, gosh, I can't remember his name, but somebody will probably know. And, like Jolly Robin, and can't remember some of them, but anyway. But Grandfather Frog in the Jerry Muskrat book, he cracks me up. And also on my Kindle, that's where I have Fourth Wing. Even though I borrowed it from Libby, I wanted to read it on Kindle. And also on Kindle, I'm still reading Those Damned Rebels by Michael Pearson. And I have finished 7 chapters out of 23. And that is one I think I'm because I've got all the library books, pressing on me to get done before the due dates. I've kind of neglected Those Damn Rebels because it's so good that I want to just keep reading it and I can't, it's hard for me to stop at a chapter, the end of a chapter, because I want to keep reading. So I might have to table that one until I get through these library books. And so speaking of that, when I do get through, the final one is Wayward, I want to go back to the Powder Mage series, which is a fantasy, and it's a flintlock fantasy, and I finished Promise of Blood, I believe in December maybe, but the next one is the Crimson Campaign, and I definitely want to continue that series, so that one's really calling to me. So when I get through these library books, that's probably what I'll get at the library next, and I'll make sure I don't put any holds on anything else until I finish the Crimson Campaign, because I don't want to get stuck, trying to read 3 books at once, and anyway, I want to keep my focus a little bit more narrow, and so that's what I'll be doing. And thank you for watching. That's where I'm at, and I don't really have a big TBR for February or anything like that, because if the book club continues, or even if it is a different book, if the book sounds interesting to me, I'll probably try to read it along with whatever library books I'm still reading. We'll see how it goes. And but anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.